Welcome to Race Country Cottage, week 20 of our Thai house build. Can you believe it? Week 20. How amazing. I mean, the main structure's up and now it's all basically internal works. So what happened this week? Rendering on the porch columns got completed. The main focus has been the electricals. There's three of the team, the electrician and the two helpers, doing the electricals, and they've got a great majority of it done this week, which you'll see in the video. Probably finish up, I'd suggest, Monday or Tuesday. The roofing team is back on site as well. They had some bits to finish on the carport, and the main roof of the house was missing some edging pieces. They arrived. They got the carport done, but got rained out today. It's nice now, but it was raining really hard this morning, so they won't be back till probably Monday or Tuesday next week to finish that off. And then on Friday, ceiling materials arrived for the gypsum board and the metal strips that go around to support the boards to complete the ceilings and the soffits of the house, which I suspect will start next week. Anyway, thanks for joining me. It's been mainly sunny and dry, just a couple of showers. Hasn't really held too much up other than the roof. We took a trip to Nakhon Phanom as well this week to meet with the builder about exterior colors and designs issues. Enjoyed a nice lunch by the Mekong River looking over the mountains to Laos. So come with me and check out the update. It's a bit longer than usual. There's a lot of electricals, maybe a bit too much, but for those that are interested in electricals, there's lots to see. And look forward to being able to share week 21 with you at the end of next week. Cheers. So here we go with week 20. It began with rendering of the columns and electricals. First, the rendering. The external columns on the front and back porches needed to be rendered. Here, this is the back porch. They've got the render on, it's dried. Now they're using the straight edge to smooth it out, to make it look very smooth. Now here they are mixing the render at the front. To me it looks like icing for a cake. It's kind of got that texture. It's a very thick icing, very smooth, which leaves a nice finish when it's applied and dried on the columns. Here the fellow's still putting on the render bead for the corner. You can see in the background. This is the back porch. This is what it looks like when the columns have been done and dried. And here they are. He was putting the render bead on this, and now you can see that the render's on, and they need to apply it before they smooth it. So they put it on, leave it on fairly thick, and then come back. So the other big thing was happening this week was the electrical installation. So you can recall last week we had delivery of electrical supplies, wires, conduits for running the wires through the house, and the wire nuts to fasten the wires together. So last week they put the junction boxes in. This week was about getting it all installed. So first step was putting in these clips to hold the conduits between the boxes. You can see the clips attached to the metal framework here, which makes it very neat when they put the conduit in. It holds it all straight and very tidy. So here you can see the conduit's been hooked into the junction boxes and placed into the clips along the top of the metal beams that are used for the roofing. And here is our site foreman, and he's the electrician. Been at it for years. He's just cutting off a piece of conduit so that it's the right length to fit into the junction box. and just some footage of what it looks like with the conduit installed all along the framework. Looks very neat and tidy. It's well above the ceiling. So the house will have single-phase electricity. There's no three-phase in this area. Apparently we'll have 2 single-phase lines coming into the house. And the 3-wire system is, as you can see, brown's live, blue is neutral, and yellow, green-yellow is the ground wires. And they'll be connected to plugs like this around the house. Apparently there was 90 pieces of conduit used and over 100 junction boxes. So the electrician said he hasn't done a house that's had this much electricity, but it's just more of the same. And that's the wires being used. 2.5 for plugs, 4 for electricity for the air conditioner, and 6 for heaters. And these are the LED ceiling lights that will be installed into the system. So with all the junction boxes and conduit in place, it's time to start pulling wires. So they use a cable puller, which is a hard piece of plastic that they can put into the wall and up the conduit to grab a hold of the wire. So here you can see the boys at work trying to pull some wires. Now in this video you can see in the far right the puller, the yellow puller on the wall and on the floor, and they're feeding wires into the junction box, and the guy on the floor is pulling with the wire puller. In this video, I've showed this video because it just shows the challenges of pulling wires in these walls. So they pulled them partly in, and then the wires dislodged from the puller. So they have to pull it back out, pull the wires back out with the pullers. You can see the yellow puller there over the guy's shoulder, and then the electrician is reattaching the 3 wires, the live, the neutral, and the ground, back to the puller so they can pull it. There's quite a bit of resistance watching them, you know, when they get this 3 wires into the conduit and have to pull them along and down the walls and out the outlet. There's a lot of resistance, so it takes a bit of effort. So here he's got it ready, and he's pushing the wires in to the junction box down the conduit, and then this fella down here, he's pulling on the wire puller, and there he has got the wires out, so he's all set. Having wires in the house is fine, but you need power from the grid. So my partner's relatives are connected with PEA. We organized for them to come out on site to have a look at how we get power onto the site from the lines going by the house. So we had a discussion with this chap who was going to organize to get a pole installed, a 9-meter pole just on the edge of our property. We had to buy the 50-millimeter wire that they use to hook to the grid. This is the roll we bought, cost us 3,000 baht for 50 meters. And I think Thursday morning the pole was up. We missed the install. They came early before their work time and put it in place, ready for connection later on. So back to some of the electrical work going on in the house. There they're working on the back porch, where there's going to be 2 rows of lights and column lights on the columns. Also asked them to put a electrical supply down the column so that I could hook up lights in the backyard or a water fountain or something. To be determined later on. This is them cutting. You can see they've marked out the area for the conduit. And here they're just measuring up for the lights, and installed the conduit tube that'll have to be rendered in place. And we did the same for the front. They put a conduit tube down so I can have power to the front yard. So here the electrician is welding pieces of metal, making a metal tray, I guess, best way to describe it, that sticks out from the roof beams. And it's to hold the 6 pieces of conduit that bring the wires from the back of the house and from parts of the house into the utility room where the electrical box for the house will be. So you can see starting to put the tubes along his metal framework. I think there's six clips, so obviously there'll be 6 conduits running along this. Yeah, there we are. I think I'm right, 6, to bring the wires from various parts of the house into the utility room and the breaker box that'll be installed obviously later. So I found that all this work was very neat and tidy. It's well above the ceiling, so there's no wires on the ceiling that'll have insulation in it. And there it just shows the conduit coming out, running along the back of the house. And here he's joined up the conduit to do the turn and into the utility room. And there's like a large junction box where everything will come into and then be fed down the wall to where the breaker box. Just decided to show this. I mean, they're pulling wires here again. This is into the master bedroom. Yeah, actually, this one is they're actually pulling the wires from here back to the utility room. So it's the wire puller had to come through all the way from the utility room to the back of the house. And just some general shots of some of the finished work. The wrapped up tubing you see, it's flex tubing around. This is for lights that go on the ceiling, and this is just some of the junction boxes where the wires have been placed and cut and need to be put together, which you'll see later. So just to give you a flavor of the work that goes on. All the wires are held together with wire nuts, which is screw on to the end of the wires. Makes it very tidy, and then you'll see later, use electrical tape as well on top of that to hold them secure. Here you're in the master bedroom, and we've got 2 wall lights either side of where the bed will be, and below that are switches for the lights, independent for each light, and below that then are power sockets on the wall. So it was a bit of a complicated electrical pull to get the right wires in, and so they can be hooked up later. And here he's just feeding some wires down the wall and trying to get them pulled across. This is what the power outlets look like once the wires have been cut and put in place. They're left that way for the plugs to be installed later on. And this is the plugs that we'll be using, hopefully, on the wall. So the 3 wires hook up to the back, as described earlier. This is the flex tubing I was talking about, where they put the wires for the lights. You can see the wing nuts have been used there to secure some wires. And this is the flex tubing that goes across the ceiling, and they'll hook up the LED lights from that after the ceiling's in place. So here they're on the back porch doing some electricals, and of course different size electrical wire connectors. This is just to show how the electrician goes about doing the job. I mean, he strips the wires, twists them, and then uses a wire connector to fasten everything together in these pairs that he's got. Same colors and same pairs. Then use these electrical tape to wrap the wires and the wire connector together so it's secure and not going to move or come apart later. So I thought I mean, I'm no professional electrician. I don't, you know, I'm just a handyman. But I thought his work was neat, tidy, and suitable for the house that we're in. So the wires that are being used are Thai standards, I'm told, and when you look it up, it seems to be correct. Here you're using the wire strippers to pull off the casings on the wire, and then does his wrapping of his pairs, twists them in place. It uses these pliers to get a real good twist, so they're well wrapped together. Cuts it off to an appropriate length to then put his wire connector screw on, and wraps it as just seen before. So gives you a flavor of certainly how this electrician and this builder goes about doing his job. I've seen some photos and videos of some really dodgy stuff in Thailand, but I think this one's pretty good, pretty professional. So I just wanted to explain here each side of the junction box, you can see there's two outlets with wires coming out. Those are to feed the two lines of lights that go along the back porch. There's one line by the inner wall and one by the outer part of the ceiling on the back porch. And the electrician just explaining that there to my partner, how it's connected and how it all works. These are the lights that will get installed, LED ceiling lights, and just some close-ups of the wire connectors on the junction boxes where all the wires are paired together. And that's the yellow wire connector or wire nut they use. And that's a completed box. And here they're putting the flexible tube out with the wires for the lighting systems to be installed later. And that's just the team working farther on the back porch to complete it all. What it looks like when it's all completed. All very neat and tidy, ready for the ceiling to go in. And then they managed to pull all the wires from around the house into the utility room. They're all hanging there to be fed into the junction box and down the wall, the breaker box or electrical box later on. Then it was on to some roofing. So there's parts of the carport that were missing, the fascia board. And the team came back to put those on, and a bit of flashing. They were short of flashing, so they've got that, and just putting the side flashing on the carport here. So the roofing is almost completed. There's a few bits and pieces missing on the main roof. There's some edge pieces that need to go on. We've been waiting a month for the short pieces. Some painting issue apparently, or coloring issue according to SCG, or so we're told by the builder. And here they're just securing the flashing onto the fascia board. It's metal, it then wraps over and rests on the roof so that no rain gets in. Here they're working at the front, just peeling off some of the PU foam that sits under the roof to put on the end pieces that cover the foam. And I had to stop a bit because it got a bit damp. Had a few downpours during the week. They only last for an hour or so. So really didn't hold up any works, but good chance to check on the roof and see what it's like in terms of noise and leaks. And then lo and behold, the other pieces for the main roof arrived on Friday, which really happy about. So they just edge pieces for the gable ends. I've tried to mark up there to show you. And the team showed up on Friday to do some work on the tiles. So they come with holes in them, but they need to punch them out to make them a bit larger. And some of them, they need to be drilled out You have to go very slow and carefully because apparently they can crack. So they just work away with their drill and the hammer and nail, and just to get the holes ready to accept the screws that secure them in place. So hopefully they'll be back on Monday or Tuesday to finish off the roof completely. And then it was some ceiling supplies arrived. So our ceiling people must be ready to come soon. Once the electricals are done, I suspect this coming week they'll be here. So we've got the gyprock, and they've got the metal channels that they use to put around to secure the gyprock to, and the ceiling and the soffit. And I also this week had a trip into Nakhon Phanom, where we had a look at some rock to put on the bottom of the house where the black strip goes. We might put rock along there just to make it look good. And we've got some sample flooring arrived. This is the Cottage LT SPC flooring that we're pretty happy to go with. So after getting all that done, we stopped in Nakhon Phanom to enjoy the view, have lunch at one of our favorite restaurants, had the burger and a bit of fish and chips. Nice hearty lunch where we enjoyed looking out the windows and the air conditioning to the views across the Mekong and Laos to Laos. Very, very nice. When we got back home, the dogs had to come out, so we've got the Pomeranian on the left and the Golden on the right, and the other two belong to our neighbors. So it was like doggy daycare. Out came the treats, and all dogs ended up with their treats. So look, I might leave you there for this week. That's the update. Bit long on the electricals, but hopefully it's worth it. As I say, for week 21, I'm hoping to finish off the electricals and that the ceiling team will be in to commence the soffit work around the outside and the ceilings inside the house. So thanks for joining me. Appreciate your watching, and see you all next week.